spent about half of the 2020s hosting a podcast called Delayed Replay, recapping and reviewing movies that came out on time in my universe but got delayed in that other universe. And as such, the movies as they were in my universe came out differently. Some listeners not of this universe even think that this is an improvised comedy podcast. And hey, let them think what they want. It's entertaining either way, right? I'm Steven Shinder, and you're listening to Delayed Replay Season 6. Hashtag 6 seasons about movies. New episode every other Saturday. Unless I say otherwise. Hello listeners, welcome to another episode of Delayed Replay, that podcast where we recap and review movies that got delayed in that other universe, but came out on time in our universe. I'm your host, Steven Shinder, and we are starting Season 6 of this podcast. Yeah, I know it's a little bit into the year. I took a break, and it was a much needed one. You know, there's been a lot of frustrating things happening in the world, and you know, it's a lot to take in, but I'm committed to this and I'm back at it. So yeah, new episodes every other Saturday. And yeah, so the topic for this episode, this season premiere for season 6, hashtag 6 seasons about movies. I'm a community nerd, I guess. Talking about Companion. But first, I'll introduce my co-host companion, I guess, for this episode. You've heard him before, although this time around he sounds a bit more human. You know, he's really been adapting to the human voice, so it won't sound as robotic this time around. It's the version of me from that other universe where people are robots. So how is it going, robot me? Hello, Steven. It is nice to be on another episode of Delayed Replay. I am so excited to talk about this movie. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it as well. So, this movie, the advertising was kind of weird. Like, the trailer said from the studio that brought you The Notebook, which would be New Line Cinemas, and you know, they've made so many movies, so it's like, I don't know why one would even need to go to The Notebook in that marketing, you know. Yes, perhaps it is to bring to mind the idea that this touches on romance, although this is not as much of a romantic film as it has horrific elements. Yeah, it's got horrific, suspenseful elements. I totally agree. It gets pretty bonkers, this one. But the marketing also, I think it was like a poster or something, said from the, what was it? I think it said from the creators of Barbarian. But I think, you know, that horror movie from a couple years or so back, Barbarian, it was written and directed by Zach Kreger, but here Zach is one of the producers, whereas Companion is written and directed by Drew Hancock. Yes, that is very odd. No doubt they are trying to milk the marketing for what it's worth and really just, I don't know, connecting red strings like on a board or something. Yeah, with that hesitation and whatnot, you are kind of sounding more and more human. You just gotta work on the, I don't know, the way of speaking or something. I don't know. But yeah, also, I don't know if this happened in that other universe, but over here, the posters and trailers would like highlight the A and the I in the word companion, like highlight them in red because, you know, AI. Yes, that was very stupid. I felt very insulted by that. Yeah, fair enough. So, in my universe, this came out about January 10th over here in the US. In that other universe where it got delayed, it got released January 31st in the US, although there might be other territories where it came out a couple weeks earlier. But yeah, the me from that other universe where it got delayed still hasn't seen it, nor have we. Yes, this is true. You okay there? Yeah, I am just still adjusting to trying to sound more casual. Okay. Um, yeah, so this movie, I guess we could go ahead and start by recapping the plot. Like, it's been a moment, feeling a bit rusty, but I think the. How dare you say rusty? That is very offensive to me. You do not know how it feels to be rusty. Oh, shoot, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. It just. I'll work harder on my word selection here. Thank you. I appreciate your apology. Yeah, of course. So, this begins in a grocery store. There's this, so her name is Iris, and she is, doing some grocery shopping, I guess. Like, she has a card. It's one of those prepaid cards, which I guess was given to her. Yes, as we continue through the film, the implication is that she was given the card by Josh, who we will get into that later, but he bumps into her here in the store. Yeah, they kind of make it a meet cute type thing, right down to the cheesy romance music. Yes, they included that song that goes something like, "Take my breath away." I think those are the words. I don't know. I have not Googled them at the moment because it is more human to not be able to Google an immediate second away, and I'm trying to practice. Yeah, that's fair. I know what you mean. It's a song that was in Top Gun, but yeah, it was kind of it was cheesy, and that's what they were going for, and I guess I can appreciate that they know what they're going for. So yeah, it's this meet cute thing, and there's a pun in there where she says something about acute angles, and because they talk about photography, and then she talks about acute angles, triangles, and it's, yeah, I guess that's supposed to be this movie's idea of how robot minds work. To be fair, that part was very accurate. Okay, good to know. Yeah, guess they did their research there. So they go out on a date, and, going through a walk in the park and looking at the lake. Yes, and there are geese and swans at the park. Yeah, I was wondering what park this was, but, like, where in the US this is supposed to take place, but I guess that doesn't really matter. Um, but as the film unfolds, and, we knew this, like, from the marketing, that she is a robot, but they really take their time. Like, a half hour in, we get the revelation that Josh can control her from his phone, and that this isn't, he had this fantasy of a meet cute at a grocery store, and has been putting her through these other first meeting fantasies that he's had. Yes, it's kind of different from what you would probably expect. He has these fantasies where he wishes that he could meet someone and fall in love by meeting them a at a surf shop or at a shop that looks like a Radio Shack, but I'm not sure if it was Radio Shack because I don't even know if those are still around, but there were Radio Shack-esque items in that store. Yeah, I guess all of his fantasies just have to do with him meeting someone and falling in love with her at a store. It's really weird. Yes, they never really explain that. I would say that that's a point against the film, in my opinion. Yeah, that's fair enough. And so it's basically a Groundhog Day situation for her, that she's been through these scenarios but gets her mind wiped. And so I guess this feels like kind of both a Groundhog Day type movie and a Valentine's Day type movie, which, again, if you haven't guessed from like when this episode is coming out, yeah, Valentine's Day is pretty soon, so figure throw in this semi romance, or not really a romance, because like it's these characters who are put in a romance situation, but as it unfolds you see that's like horror, sci-fi, thriller type thing. Yes, quite the meshing of genres. By the way, you mentioned Barbarian earlier. How did you feel about that film? I am very curious. Okay, so, actually, let me look at my Letterboxd. Or Letterbo XD, I guess I should say. So, for my review of Barbarian, I gave that one 4 stars. I thought it had unique ideas, and maybe some bits that could have been better. So my review says, more like Barbara and Ian from Doctor Who, am I right? Anyway, it's kind of frustrating how close this film is to being completely brilliant. Wow, that review is pretty funny, especially considering what we learn about Iris here. Yeah, I was just getting to that. So, another, I guess, I don't know, like, apparently the company that makes these companion robot things, like, the idea was to make them want to go with, like, I guess, geeky fans to, like, conventions. Like, there's a Doctor Who convention, it's Gallifrey 1 in real life. I don't remember if they use the exact name for that in this, but apparently the idea was to, Josh wanted to bring her as, cosplaying as a companion while he cosplays as a doctor at this Doctor Who convention. Yes, he has her cosplay as Clara while he tries to cosplay as the 11th Doctor. Yeah, with like the bow tie and everything. He actually looks pretty good with that outfit. Like, he even shaves so that he looks kind of like Matt Smith, but not many people can look like Matt Smith. He has a very distinct look, I agree. Yeah, so they go to this Doctor Who convention, and this happens after some sort of back and forth, struggling with the controls on the phone, where, adjusting her intelligence and whatnot, and she's trying to fight back against that. But they go to the convention, and there are fans dressed as Cybermen, and I guess there are also these cars that are called Cyber Motorists, and they never reveal the name of the company that makes these self-driving cars, but they go haywire because of some of the other companion robots sort of hot wiring them and remote controlling them, and so they start driving around and running over people in the street, wreaking havoc. Yes, it is very much like someone playing Grand Theft Auto, where you do not do the mission, you just sort of mess around and run over people. Yeah, as gruesome as it was here, it was kind of it was kind of funny, and it was hard for me to tell if it was intentionally funny or unintentionally funny. Yes, it was very difficult for me to assess that as well, and it is a fair point that whether intentional or unintentional, that could color one's view of the final result. Yeah, so I guess we'll see where we land on that in the end. But with all this chaos happening, Iris is wondering if she should rebel because, she wants more agency and doesn't want to be controlled. There's that part where Josh's friends try to keep her locked inside, but they're too lazy to lock the door, and she just runs outside. Oh, I think you missed a bit. They were not being lazy. They were actually feeling sorry for her and rooting for her, so they intentionally left the door unlocked so she would get out. Oh, that's right, yeah, and Josh was acting like a jerk to them, so they were like, okay, yeah, screw him, let's let her out, and if she ends up killing him, then no blood on our hands, yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Yeah, I totally blanked on that. Yes, and there's also a moment where there is the speed chase on the highway. Josh is trying to chase her while she drives a car, and they encounter a police officer. Yeah, and the police officer, gets in a fight with Josh because he desperately wants to get to Iris, and it is like, I need her, and he just punches the officer, and yeah, this is a really unhinged movie. Yes, and she runs into the forest, and it really does feel like it's trying to have the trappings of a slasher film, even if the tone feels all over the place. Yeah, it's really weird, and the forest does seem dark for some of the movie, but then there's part where there's more sunlight and even a rainbow, and for some reason there's a lemon tree, and I don't know what the significance of that is really. Do you have any thoughts on that? I believe it was meant to symbolize wealth, and how Iris, sorry, I almost forgot her name on purpose because forgetting names is more human, and again, I'm practicing sounding more human. Yeah, of course. So, the lemons represent wealth, and how she will feel more wealthy if she has more freedom and agency. Okay. Yeah. I wonder, that must have flown over lots of people's heads, which I can't say I really blame them, but hey, I wrote a novel called Lemons Loom Like Rain, so there you go. We sometimes when we write these things, we want to throw these things in there, and they can symbolize different things depending on the story, but we like to use certain foods as symbols. Yes, it is a very common practice in the culture of crafting entertainment. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, this forest sequence really does feel like it's meant to, I don't know, also be like a reference to like the Garden of Eden and the Book of Genesis. And I feel like this film is trying to say something about the perception that a lot of people have or have had that women were made for men. And in this case, Iris is a robot, pretty much tailored for this guy, Josh, but she wants to break out of that mold. So this movie's really going for an empowerment type thing, which isn't surprising. Like, going in, you kind of know that that's the type of film that this is gonna be, but the moments of violence, and that sometimes hilarious violence, kind of makes it feel a bit less poetic in a way. So I don't know. Yes, it can be very perplexing, but that is definitely what it was going for. Yeah, and there's also, I forgot to mention, there's a moment in the movie where they watch The Notebook together. So a bit of sort of lazy promotion, showing off what someone associated with this film, or I guess a studio that distributed that film, sort of patting themselves on the back there. Yes, it is very inauthentic. Yeah. But Josh tries shooting at Iris, and for, I don't know, I guess most of her is bulletproof except for the shoulders for some reason. Like, I can't understand why the shoulders are the weak point. It is a machinery thing. They sort of spell it out when showing the schematics for a very quick second, but it's very quick and must have gone over your head and eyes. Okay, yeah, that must have been it. So she feels weakened when she gets shot in the shoulder. So she tries to run away and try to rebuild herself, going to this tool shed that she finds, and they make it like this montage with like 80s sounding like power ballad type thing, made exclusively for this film. And yeah, it's just really unhinged, and I don't know if it quite works, but it's really unintentionally, or maybe intentionally, funny. I'm still not quite sure if what I was going for. Yes, but I think it can be forgivable because the final showdown between the two is very thrilling. Yeah, they have like a final showdown where like she uses the trees for cover and is like jumping from branch to branch. And they had foreshadowed this when they had like their little, like one of their past dates involved like climbing a tree, and earlier in the movie she retrieved these memory cards, or not memory cards, it was a hard drive, like an external hard drive that had her memories that he hid away from her. So she regained these skills and was able to best him at these skills. Yes, and she jumped down and was able to beat him at arm wrestling, which ended in twisting his arm, much like how the arm wrestling memory almost went that route, but here like it just went full throttle. Yeah, and he's like calling uncle, and she is like just not having it, so she ends up beheading him, which Also, side note, like, about this beheading, but um, I reread this Star Wars novel, and by the way, we're recording this on Star Wars Podcast Day. I don't know if you knew that. No, I did not know that. Holidays are not as big of a thing where I'm from. We acknowledge them, but then don't make too much of a big deal about them. Okay, but yeah, I reread this 2005 book, Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader, and I still think it's good, but there's a sentence where this beheaded clone trooper's head is described as an amputated head. And I'm pretty sure that amputation can only happen to limbs, like according to the definition. Yes, I believe so as well. At least that is the case in my universe. Yeah, so it was just really weird wording, but yeah, it's still an interesting book. So now that Josh is beheaded, she just throws his head in the air and kicks it like it's like a soccer ball, and it's like obviously a fake head, but I mean, I don't know like what else he would do. Like it wasn't CGI, so maybe CGI would have looked worse. But yeah, she gets in a car and drives off into the sunset, carrying the phone that allows her to adjust her intelligence and stuff. So yeah, she has her agency, and I guess we're supposed to assume that she lives happily ever after. Yes, I would assume so as well. Although I do kind of wonder if maybe they ran out of time and money and could not shoot additional footage. Yeah, the ending does feel a little abrupt and also cliche, but I don't know. I did like the music in the credits. How it has this like unsettling vibe, but also like a music box type thing going on. I don't know, it kind of fits. These characters had a sort of divorce that led to her having her freedom. And I think there's also this implication, because as she's driving, there's this radio broadcast about other companion bots that are turning against people. And so I think she's going to be part of some companion bot rebellion. Yes, that would have cost a lot to shoot, no doubt. Yeah, maybe it would have been too much. I don't know. And I guess that's also a cliche. Like, the robot characters are expected to have like a robot rebellion, but I don't mind the idea. It just felt kind of weird that it seemed like it was teasing something, but I guess I'd rather have that than like a post-credit scene, which this film, at least in this universe, did not have. There's also a montage where the companion bots apparently dismantle the company that made the cyber motorists. So it's like machine versus machine, basically. But good riddance to that company. And weirdly, this film is the same in your universe as well. It's just that in your universe, it's like a what if humans were in charge of robots type of what if scenario. Yes, that is correct. Okay, so I guess we could go into final thoughts and scores out of 10. So, final thoughts on Companion and your score out of 10 and your unit of measurement for that score. So, Companion was a somewhat compelling film, although there was some tonal whiplash which even I, a robot, could recognize. It was still an interesting ride, and so I would calculate that it deserves 7 out of 10 shoulders. Oh, okay, shoulders, yeah. Yeah, I'm there with you. I think it's 7 out of 10 cyber motorists. It's kind of a fun ride. It does have some head scratcher moments. I get what it's going for, but there are some bits that feel so unhinged that I'm not sure like what's supposed to be funny and what isn't supposed to be funny, because there are also some dramatic and suspenseful moments. But overall, I did not regret seeing it. Like, I thought it was, you at least got some fun out of it and some thought-provoking stuff, even if some of it could have been done a bit better. And who knows, maybe it is better in a different universe. But yeah, this is the version that we're talking about here, that we just recapped, and that's how we feel about it. Indeed. All right, so thanks for joining me once again this time around. And yeah, I think you're getting better at sounding more human, Robot Me. Yes, it is very uncanny. Ha 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 ha. Okay, I'm not gonna dwell on that. So to all you listeners, check out the socials in the show notes. Social media there's been lots of things going on with social media lately, so just whatever's in the show notes and is where you can find posts and whatnot. And I'm at Steven Shinder and Steven Shinder Storytelling, stevenshinder.com for info on my books. Find me on Letterboxd, Goodreads, and all that stuff. So, or Letterboxd, yeah, I guess I should say. But yeah, I guess that'll do it for us. And the me from that universe where things got delayed will be reviewing what he's been watching lately, recent movies. Like, I think he was going to talk about The Wolfman and some other things, like superhero shows and stuff. So, without further delay, here's my other self. Hello everyone, this is Steven from that universe where things got delayed, and good to be back. Again, I co-host Yes Shift with my dad, and I also work at Drum Talk TV, and I haven't been updating my YouTube channel, Steven Shinder Reviews in video form, in a little while, because I thought Skeleton Crew was good. Finished my review series of that on the YouTube channel, at least. I wanted to post a review of Wolfman on there, the new Wolfman movie, but which I watched on director Lee Winnell's birthday, funny enough. But with the things going on in the world that are pretty upsetting, it just didn't feel like the time. I didn't feel like I could put it together there. So I'll share thoughts on that movie in a bit. But first, I think last time I was on here, I hadn't seen all of Marvel's What If Season 3 yet. And I'm here to report that I have seen it. I even marathoned it, much of it like late at night over the holiday break in December, and I really loved it. It was maybe my favorite season of the show, which I guess is an unpopular opinion. The Howard and Darcy episode is just so fun. Like, it's so hilarious. And people have lamented like, oh, they could have done these other what ifs, but I was thoroughly entertained by the possibilities they threw into that season. The Western stuff and like the way that the show ended. And going into season 3, I was feeling skeptical because I was kind of in that boat of like, it kind of feels like they aren't utilizing the premise to the fullest. But I was super entertained by that third season. It feels kind of like a masterpiece to me, that third season. But I know I'm in the minority and lots of people are unhappy, and I guess that's whatever. More recently, Marvel has released the new animated show, Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which I guess is kind of a what if in a sense. It's like, what if, it does allude to the events of Civil War, like Captain America Civil War in an episode. But it's like, what if Norman Osborn had met Peter Parker beforehand, I guess. I don't know. And it's definitely a different universe from the MCU. And I think it originally was being developed as a prequel to Spider-Man Homecoming, back when it was called Spider-Man Freshman Year. But I do think that making it its own universe, even though it does allude to similar things that happened in the MCU, I think making it a different universe was for the best so that there's more creative freedom. And I have no problem with how different certain characters look. I mean, it's a multiverse, so like, and we've had lots of versions of Spider-Man and the supporting characters, so it's like, I don't have the energy to be mad about that sort of stuff. Like, why get mad about it? Like, why? I don't know. But yeah, the show has been really good. There's been some nice character drama work in it. And I like that they're releasing it in batches of like 2 or 3 episodes per week. It's like what Young Justice started doing with season 3 a few years ago, or maybe several years ago now. I don't know. It's a while ago now that I think about it. And I've also been enjoying the new season of Harley Quinn. I think it's season 5 now. I've been enjoying it for the most part. I really love Harley and Ivy's dynamic, the stuff in Metropolis. The most recent episode was focused on Brainiac, and it didn't really entertain me as much. But I'm sure the show will be back on track next episode. And Invincible had its season 3 premiere, premiering with 3 episodes, 45 minutes more or less each. And I thought it was pretty strong. I like the certain sidekick that's in this season, the way that they're handling that and all this other stuff. I can't really say anything, like, I don't want to spoil anything, but it's pretty good, and I feel like I'm more excited going into season 3 than I felt by the end of season 2. So, yeah, like, we really are spoiled when it comes to 2D animated comic book superhero shows, Recently, I also enjoyed the trailer for Fantastic Four: The First Steps. Or is it The Fantastic Four: First Steps? I can't quite remember, but it looks like they may have nailed the tone for it. It is kind of weird that people have been coming around saying how great the 2000s movies were, which I liked those growing up, but they're not the best. So it's really weird seeing people say that those look better than this, and other people saying this looks better than our other recent MCU movies visually, like cinematography wise. Like, I just don't know anymore with people, but I am a bit more excited to see it when it comes out. There's also a trailer for Jurassic World Rebirth, which, sure, fine, I guess. For me, the animated series side of the Jurassic universe is really my bread and butter. And I really feel like I'm just, any hype that I have for this movie would really be secondhand hype from friends who are super passionate about it, and maybe it'll spread to me. But I really think it'll be like the flip of a die or a coin or something if I actually go out and see this one. But yeah, trying to remember what other shows I watched. I watched Goosebumps: The Vanishing. So it's the second season of the Disney Plus Goosebumps show, and season 2 is a different story. I guess I was kind of middle of the road on it again. I do think David Schwimmer's dad character does feel like that type of, because Stay Out of the Basement is all the inspirations for this season. He does feel like that type of dad in that type of story. But yeah, I don't know. The season, there were several references to TikTok in that season, and I did like some of the character dynamics, but yeah, I guess it was like okay to fine-ish, but I don't know. I think I'm realizing that Goosebumps is tough to be into as an adult. Not just this show that kind of just banks on the name and uses loose inspiration, but also just any Goosebumps show or book is tougher to get into as an adult than as a kid. So I'd be curious, like, what younger viewers think of this show. I also watched American Born Chinese. That came out on Disney Plus a couple of years ago. And, it's a show that had, I think, 8 episodes, maybe 10, but I'm pretty sure it was 8. But, yeah, the actor who played Data in The Goonies is in it, and he's actually in a new movie out this weekend called Love Hurts, which is supposed to be something that has a little Goonies reunion in a scene, supposedly. I've been curious about it, but I don't know if I'll get motivated enough to go out and see it. Like, I'm not really sure yet, but if I do see it, I'll report back, of course. But yeah, American Born Chinese was a pretty good show. It touched upon, like, perceptions and, I guess, stereotyping and those sorts of thing. And it did end on a cliffhanger, and the cliffhanger moment itself felt too Marvel-ish to me. So it's a bummer that it got canceled and didn't get enough viewership when it was out, but it was an interesting watch. And I've been catching up on The Walking Dead spinoffs, and again, no spoilers. You don't need to worry about spoilers, but I finished Fear the Walking Dead, and I'm left wondering, like, what was the point of it all? Because, it has that weird change where it focuses on one set of characters and then changes its tone and focuses on these other characters, a couple of them being familiar ones. And it's like, what is even the legacy of this show other than one that changed in a weird way? Like, I don't know. But I also watched the post-finale spinoff, The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, and I thought it was kind of weird. Like, I didn't really feel like I was thrilled. Like, there wasn't much suspense. Yeah, I don't know. It was missing something. And I haven't seen Book of Carol yet. I have seen the first episode of Dead City, which I was interested in checking out, but then the way that that the characters in it, I don't know if it's a spoiler to say which characters are in it, but the main characters in it, the way they're acting feels kind of weird, like they haven't learned from previous stuff. But Yeah, it's one I intend to get further into. These are just 6 episode things, these post finale spin off things, but I haven't gotten past that first episode yet. But I did watch The Walking Dead: The Ones Who Live, and I thought that one was spectacular. It was really good. Um, so yeah, like I don't know, these spin-offs are these character focused spin-offs, I guess you could consider them. Like I could see how on paper uh the people behind the franchise would be like, okay, now that the main show has wrapped up, let's make these character pieces about characters that we know the fans love. It's just that the writing can be pretty spotty for some of them. I understand, it's not a bad idea to follow these characters. It's just some of the writing could be not as captivating. But yeah, in terms of movies, the Wallace and Gromit Vengeance Most Foul was really entertaining. I think I slightly prefer Curse of the Were-Rabbit because Wallace is not as annoying in that one. I watched Star Trek Section 31, and it was a mess. It's maybe the worst Star Trek movie, in my opinion. Like, it felt like it was trying to be Suicide Squad, Men in Black. I've heard Guardians of the Galaxy compared to it. Like, it felt like it was trying to... Mission Impossible, even. Like, it felt like it was trying to be all these things except for Star Trek, and the characters weren't very likable, like, at all, really, most of the time. And their arguing was annoying, so... Yeah, and it's a shame, because I was looking forward to seeing Michelle Yeoh again, and seeing her in, like, a Section 31 project, but they just, like... it was just like a blah. Like, I don't know how else to say. Like, I'm glad this wasn't a theatrical movie. Like, it was just on streaming. Because imagine putting this out in theaters and trying to sell people on, like, getting into Star Trek now, when this movie is not really indicative of what the other Star Trek shows in recent years are like. And this movie is a spin-off of Discovery, and I've seen all of Discovery and still felt confused by certain points of this movie. Yeah, I'd give it like maybe a 4 out of 10, so not a good score, really. But I did really like the Wolfman remake, reimagining, whatever you want to call it. I know people really liked the recent Nosferatu movie. I was kind of like on it. I wasn't as invested in the characters in that version, and they did a good job with like makeup and stuff, but there were a couple parts that were like too gross, and like also a really jarring tonal moment. But there were little things here and there I appreciated, but I wasn't as into that one as everyone else, whereas I was really into this new Wolfman movie. I think I'd give that one an 8 out of 10. And it was a slow burn, but not as much of a slow burn as I was expecting. I went in expecting something different from what one might expect from a werewolf movie, because when Lee Winnell did The Invisible Man, that was pretty different from the older, goofier Invisible Man movies. So I think because I went in expecting something different, I was really satisfied, and I liked the family dynamic, and it added more tension to all the stuff that was going on. And I liked the visuals that were utilized with a certain point of view. And yeah, I thought the acting was solid. Honestly, like I was convinced in this movie. So yeah, pretty good first theatrical experience for 2025 in my opinion. I'll have to see what the next one I go out and see is. Like, it really boils down to motivation, and life is kind of weird, so we'll see. But yeah, that's some of the stuff I've been watching lately, and I'm trying to focus on my writing when I can. But yeah, I think that's it for now. So delayed replay will be back in 2 weeks. I think the topic for the next one will be Mathregan 2.0, so another AI type movie. So without further delay, have a good day.